Now we've done a couple parts of the Microbrand series, and last video everybody was loving it. I mean, look at some of these comments. Teddy, keep going, all the encouragement. The hat, just know you look 12, sorry, no offense meant. Okay. Teddy, what's on your head? Hate the hat, not really you, bad hair day. What time is baseball practice? All right, well, let's just look at the Facebook group. Maybe it'll be better there. Don't wear baseball hat on YouTube again. 100 likes. Okay. Know what I say to that? Let's talk about some microbrands. All right, guys, so this is part 3 of our series. So we're going to be going through just different microbrands. I have a list of nearly 100 microbrands that I want to touch on in this series. They'll just kind of be an ongoing thing going forward. So don't get mad if I don't mention a brand that you want to see mentioned. I'll probably get to it at some point. And also leave comments down below about other brands that you want to see mentioned, as well as go ahead and make fun of me all you want. All right, so our first watch is from a brand called Gentian, and we're going to be looking at their Mark II. So these watches come in with a price of $495, case size of 40 millimeters. We have a thickness of 11.2 millimeters at its thickest point. Water resistance is 100 meters and has a sapphire crystal. You have several different options in terms of colors. So you can go with the silver with Roman numeral dials, which looks really similar to like the Hamilton Valiant line, if you're not familiar with that line. You also have a black with Roman numerals, but I think my favorite is this blue option. Looks really sharp, and for those that want to go down the microbrand route, I think something to consider if you are a more dress-oriented person. All right, now next up we have 2 diver watches from 2 separate brands, and the first brand is Notice. So Notice is a boutique watch company based in Los Angeles, California, and that is the very place where they design and assemble all their products. And the watch we're going to be looking at from them is their Avalon watch. This watch comes in with a price of $625, case size of 42 millimeters, thickness of 12.9 millimeters, powered by an automatic Miyota 9039. They do regulate this watch before sending it out to you, so they're claiming for it to be plus or minus 8 seconds a day in terms of accuracy. Water resistance 300 meters, and has a sapphire crystal. The watch also comes with a ceramic bezel insert, also has some pretty compact lugs for this watch considering it's 42 millimeters in diameter with a lug-to-lug height of 48 millimeters. And another point to throw out there, it looks like they're having another watch being released quite soon. It's another diver watch called the Retrospect. It's a little bit cheaper. It's like 30% cheaper than this watch. It's not out yet, so I didn't want to really be the main watch that I featured, but another interesting watch to take a look at if you're interested. And now for our next microbrand, we have Zelos. And Zelos is, I feel, one of the more popular microbrands, or has been quickly emerging as of late in the last couple of years. And the one that we're going to be looking at is their Zelos Meiko 2. And this is my personal favorite choice in their entire lineup of watches. They do actually have a good amount of watches on their site that you could take a look at. But these watches come at the price of $550 on average. They do have other variants as well. Case size of 40 millimeters, which I think is a very accommodating size for most people. Powered by an automatic SW200 movement. Water resistance of 500 meters, and then has a sapphire crystal. The watch is lug to lug 46 millimeters, so this is a rather small watch in terms of probably how it's going to fit on the wrist. And they also have some steel options available as well as bronze options available. So if you're someone that wants to go for the bronze options, you can go down that route as well. It seems like a lot of the steel options are actually currently out of stock, so just something to consider. So this next microbrand is one that I got a little bit familiar with as of late. I was first introduced to them through a video that The Wire did, where they did a comparison of a Japanese Miyota movement versus an ETA Swiss-based movement. And it's a pretty interesting video. I'll link to it down below. But the watches that they were going about inspecting and kind of doing the side-by-side comparison of were 2 Carpenter watches, and that is the brand we're going to be looking at today. And their particular model is their Carpenter G1 Brooklyn Gent. So these watches come in with a price range of $825 for it on a strap, and $895 if you want to go for a metal bracelet. Case size is 38 millimeters. We're looking at a movement of an automatic ETA 2824-2, water resistance of 50 meters, and has an acrylic crystal. And this watch does have an open case back on the back of the watch with a sapphire crystal. So it clearly was done with intention to feature this acrylic crystal in here. And I think it does help with just the vintage look. If you've seen a sapphire next to an acrylic crystal in person, you know that there is a different look that comes with it. And I think they do a good job pulling off that vintage aesthetic with this watch. So they are based in Brooklyn, New York. They specialize in field-oriented watches and also this more dress-oriented piece. But really solid everyday watches from an interesting brand. And I do like the aesthetic of them, not overstated, Well done, clean dial design, and definitely a cool brand to take a look at if you're interested. Now for our next watch, it's a watch brand that I looked at when doing my previous video, my first video ever on the subject of microbrands back a year ago. And the brand is Isa with their Isa Sealander. So just some backstory about this brand. Started back in 1921, however, it went under during the quartz crisis, and two young guys from the Netherlands decided to bring back the brand. And their first release with the brand was this Sealander. And this was actually a watch that I was able to get my hands on when I did that original video. They were nice enough to send me the watch, and it's a really good looking vintage inspired diver. But let's look at the specs. From a price, we're looking at around $850 to $950, depending on where you live in the world. Case size of 41 millimeters, thickness of 13 millimeters, powered by an automatic ETA 2824, water resistance of 300 meters, and has a sapphire crystal. So now our next watch is a diver watch, and I saw many comments of this watch when I was sifting through all of the ridicule of my hat. I did find a few mentions of this watch, and the watch is the Orion Calamity. So the watch comes in with a price of $1,495, has a case size of 40 millimeters, case thickness of 11.3 millimeters at its thickest point. Movement is automatic ETA 2892, water resistance of 666 feet. That's what it says on the dial, so having some fun there. Crystal is a sapphire crystal, and the company was founded by one guy. It's run by one guy. The founder's name is Nick, and he was influenced to start making watches after being a lover of vintage Omega and being gifted an Omega constellation. And I gotta say, this is a pretty cool looking dive watch. You can see a lot of different inspiration in this watch, but it's also unique in its own ways. One thing I really like is just that second hand. I see a lot of influence from like vintage Omegas. My Omega Geneve Admiralty does have that same kind of dip second hand or orange second hand, and I think it's a really cool little touch. But really interesting watches, and these ones just kind of caught my eye. So now for our last brand and watch on the list. It's a brand that I mentioned in my first microbrand video ever again. It is Oak and Oscar, and we're gonna be looking at their most recent release, the Humboldt. So this watch comes in with a price of $1,500 to $1,700, depending if you go for the bracelet option or if you go for the leather strap option. Case size here is 40 millimeters, thickness 12.4 millimeters, powered by an automatic ETA movement. We're looking at water resistance of 200 meters and has a sapphire crystal. So Oak and Oscar is an independent watch brand based in the Midwest, like myself, but they're over in Chicago. They were founded back in 2015. And the watch that I mentioned in the first video was their Jackson chronograph, another really good looking watch. And I think they have just a good design, overall aesthetic. It's certainly a little bit of money to ask here from a micro brand, but for those that want to go down this route, hey, I think these are for particular people. And I've just kind of been a fan of Oak and Oscar. I think they do a good job with branding. They've grown pretty quick, and I wanted to give them a mention here again today. Well, all right, guys, those are my choices here in this video. If you guys like this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up. That's a great indicator for me if you want me to keep this series going. It also allows us to grow within YouTube's algorithm. So also subscribe and hit that bell icon. Bell icon's important because YouTube sometimes doesn't like to remind you or show my videos up in your feed unless you hit that. So that's a big way to help the channel as well. And say microbrands aren't your thing, you want something that's a little bit more mainstream, but an iconic piece, head over to the link in the description to Bob's Watches. Bob's Watches is a partner of the channel, and any purchase of watches using that link also supports the content that you're watching. And then finally, if you also want to support the content, you can also go to our website and check out our watch straps. We're gonna be adding a lot more straps in the upcoming weeks, so keep an eye open for that. But all of those purchases really help support the content that you're watching again. But guys, thank you again so much for watching. Be well, and I will see you all very soon.